Time to look at what Shadowlands can do better and explore the things that you maybe forgot about in BFA. Stuff that can carry over into the next expansion maybe. Does BFA have anything good in the first place? Join us to find out.
Hello there, we are Marcelian Online and we do class guides and WoW news on a weekly basis, and if you're into that, be sure to drop us a like and maybe throw a comment.
Yeah man, it really helps out massively. And now, on with the show. As opposed to us telling you about things Shadowlands should not do, things to cut on and so on, stuff we did a lot in previous episodes, this should be a time for both me and you to take a look at what can actually be saved, kept, or improved. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. What can Shadowlands possibly retain from BFA? I mean, what did BFA had as an entire expansion do good? And more important, how can that be taken over into Shadowlands? Honestly, not that much. Maybe more important is how BFA or certain BFA features could be taken on into Shadowlands and have them being improved. Take war mode for instance. You must have been hyped when you first heard of it, but then came that eye-level dynamic adjustments between players, which was broken as fuck and they were slow on fixing it. War mode done right, to an extent, was in A2 when the PvP event started, but even that was hard to balance because of the faction imbalance. Now, if you're like me, you enjoy your PvP from time to time, and a good brawl in the open can be quite fun. Currently, the lag is just unbearable in Najatar when the PvP event starts, so they really need to fix that first. But maybe they could do something similar in Shadowlands and incentivize folks to join Alliance, because we all know the majority of the player base right now is playing Horde. This is not a secret. You reworking some racials would help with that, but I feel the Alliance races and story involvement overall was just a bit too clean and righteous, and you always tend to love a good mischief, right? A good rebel, or fuck it, even a more rounded up faction with better fantasy implementation. This is how the Horde feels nowadays. Another great idea was with the 8.3 assaults and having us revisit older zones like Uldum and Vale to be able to progress our characters. I mean, it felt great because the zones are beautiful and it feels right to go back to places you haven't visited in a long time. But it got boring really fast because, well, they're just two zones. You would have probably expected that, N'Zoth being free, the majority of Azeroth would have assaults all over the place. And then you're right to say that Shadowlands isn't the best setting to have us travel to different parts of the world, but maybe in a later patch we could. World of Warcraft has immense territories that just sit dormant. Just go ahead and take a flight master from Orgrimmar to Uldum and just watch the terrain unfolding in front of your eyes. It's just impressive and fascinating. And if you think about 8.3 and the assaults, they could retain the rewards and things you have to do to have meaning, but just expand into much more zones in the world. That, and of course not having us travel like maniacs just to increase playtime. You know what I'm talking about. Smart portal placing would be a must for us having you to go in a lot of parts of Azeroth. Now think about it. Have that plus war mode done right. Speaking of zones, let's look a little bit at Mechagon. This was pretty refreshing in a lot of ways. Sure, it wasn't at the level of Suramar in terms of story and engagement, and it wasn't everyone's cup of tea. But you have to admit it came a bit out of nowhere, and it provided a lot of unique stuff for an expansion that felt so bland up until that point. The world quests were not overwhelming, the gated stuff was not that unbearable, but most importantly, it was a zone that came with a mega dungeon and a lot of fresh items to craft and collect. The punch card trinket stands out here and it complements the cyberpunky feel of the zone. This can be 100% taken into Shadowlands. The concept of having a new zone, a story, a faction, a dungeon, and items coming out of the blue with a very different feel to what you were used to up to that point. It helps with breaking a repetitive and grinding pattern, and I'm not saying Shadowlands should have the grind for overlaying systems the BFA had, but just in case we do get the, standard reputation grind, Thorghast Tower grind, and so on, a Mechagon type shit will help so much with breathing through all of that, don't you think?
And today's comment of the day comes from HD Movie Source, and he or she said, "The guy on the left is hilarious."
Wow, we always kept him barely visible, man. How the fuck did you notice him?
Yeah, he's pretty hilarious, but I think if we keep him too long, he's going to take the spotlight off of us, man.
Yeah, hey, Jason, get the fuck out of here, man. Go look for your Khaleesi or something. Graham.
And film it. There aren't too many things BFA did right that we would want to see in Shadowlands. There are, however, a lot of things with the potential to be pretty amazing that Shadowlands could implement and improve upon, because BFA kind of scuffed some shit up. Now, island expeditions. Whoa, shit, chill, guys. God damn, man. Just relax, just hear me out. Listen. If you remember the BlizzCon before BFA release, one of the main marketable features of Island Expeditions was the AI. It was the first iteration where Blizz had an attempt at a PvP AI that could use abilities, CC, interrupts, defensives and such to counter you in a 3v3 battle. That in itself has great potential to be developed if the devs are up for it. Take the AI and put it in the Torghast Tower, where we will battle all sorts of monsters and shit, and add NPCs, maybe dead NPCs, that can use player powers, react to what we are doing, and counterplay. Some of this has been seen in the Jaina fight we had back in Battle for the Zara Lore, the raids, where she ice blocked if you bloodlusted. That's probably the most basic example of the AI, but clearly Islands expanded on this, and I truly believe the devs can work with it even more. It doesn't have to be just in Torghast. We could have dungeons where we fight or assist lore characters that could have more than just one ability and a scripted pattern in terms of their combat. I really believe this could take WoW combat system to the next level. We might not get rid of the antiquated targeting and aiming system, but we can definitely get an improvement to it, and smarter AI that compels more than just a mechanical, robotical rotation will add a lot more flavor and depth to all the classes in the game, both in terms of their playstyle and in terms of game encounters. I touched the Battle for the Zara Lore raid, and I will do so again. It's fine, it gave me its consent. Remember the Alliance versus Horde style of encounters, where you would switch to the opposite faction for certain bosses? That was a pretty cool and innovative way of designing a raid with actual story implications and eliminating the age-old argument, well, who actually beat the boss, the Horde or the Alliance? The system can clearly be improved, where you could get a choice as to which Alliance race you would switch to if you play Horde, and vice versa, since we did get stuck with some underwhelming racials. This can give the writers some freedom and options when it comes to developing the story if we could include both factions in the encounter. We clearly won't have as big of a focus on Horde versus Alliance in Shadowlands, but we are still two factions trying to accomplish a goal, and just fighting side by side is boring and old. We could assault the Maw raid, or whatever it will be at the time, from two different points, and each faction playing through each other's point of view, battling different bosses. I feel they hit a nail with that encounter type and hope to see more innovative stuff like this in Shadowlands. Lastly, a personal preference of mine, which we kinda saw in BFA, kinda not, mostly to the end, but cosmetic prestigious rewards, similar to the Mythic plus 15 mount or the Mythic boss kill mount or past expansions mage towers. I want to be rewarded for my skill with cosmetics and not just better gear. Having eye level, the best reward in the game for the highest of difficulty, creates gear scaling issues. Sure, Mythic should give better gear than Heroic, but if I kill the Heroic boss, I want a cool mount only attainable by killing the Heroic end boss, and so on. They added this somewhat half-heartedly so far, and I would really love to see more of it. Similar to the artifact appearance, WOD and mob challenge modes, transmogs and such, Legion mage towers. Keep the coolest cosmetics behind the most difficult and challenging of content, and I'll guarantee that the money they aren't making from those being bought in the store mount could be made by people just playing the game more and being subscribed, No? Just me? Must be weird then. So I think we can all agree that BFA had a lot of potential and a lot of marks were missed coming into the expansion, and some of them are so cool that it'd be a shame to just kick them off. But you know, if the devs can actually work on some of this stuff, oh man.
There's a lot of potential for Shadowlands, and hopefully some of the light we shed on different features or systems that were in BFA, which were not too good, maybe they can take into account. I'm pretty sure all the devs are kind of fed up at this point with all the negativity going around.
Yeah.
I mean, we had our
I would
fair
hope
share.
so. Yeah.
We had our fair share of bashing their asses because they deserve it. Looking at you, Ian, you know, lead properly. But anyways, let's talk a little bit about the alpha. What the fuck is happening, man? I mean, all our predictions are through the roof.
Encrypted builds. To be honest, I mean, there are a couple of good reasons why things could be delayed at this point, and that kind of sucks. Not much we can do about that.
It's understandable, though.
But, well, we initially, and I think Marcelian also initially speculated that the expansion would be released clearly in December.
No, I said the earliest mid-October, the latest after BlizzCon.
Yeah, I would have expected it to be definitely after BlizzCon, because otherwise, what would they say at BlizzCon if it came out before?
You never know.
Never know. But then again, you know, we've talked about this and we know about this. We don't want another BFA, right? And if the alpha, the alpha encrypted builds keep rolling out, we don't see anything. No beta yet. And I don't know. By this time, 2 years ago, the BFA beta was live, right?
Yeah, no, no, I think that was in early April. No, but we had alpha, like people were playing alpha, people were playing footage, putting out footage on Twitch and YouTube about alpha and shit.
Right.
The feedback was kicking in, but you know,
and that was like what, 3-4 months of alpha of beta?
Yeah, more or less.
So,
it started in early April and it ended like, I don't know, in June or July or something like that.
If we take that into consideration, in the fact that BFA had a very short beta, and this time you would think that the beta would be longer, that means that it's not going to come sooner than September at this point, but it's probably going to be even later than that.
With the current conditions of the world, it's probably gonna be delayed, both the launch of the expansion and the alpha beta or whatever. But I think that's a good thing actually, because even if Blizzard staff work from home, it still gives them a lot more time to like chisel in shit. And if we get it, we get it later, man. You still have proper time to feedback it. I don't know if this is like optimistic or naive, but I don't think they want to repeat the BFA experience.
No. And personally, I've held on to a big amount of hope, seeing as how WoD was received and how WoD was pretty shit. Just that I feel like in BFA people are just more vocal. I don't know if BFA is worse than WoD. It definitely has more than WoD, a lot more in it in terms of content. And let's not forget that WoD stopped at like what, 6.2?
WoD had a good 6 months. WoD was really good 6 months. Look
at Legion. Legion, in my opinion, I haven't played all the expansions, but Legion I feel is one of the best designed expansions they ever made.
Mist of Pandaria too.
Yeah. So I do think that following this trend, shit expansion, good expansion, shit expansion, good expansion. Well, it's kind of shitty.
They cannot help it. I don't know.
They did come back from WoD, and boy, did they ever come back from WoD. And that actually gives me a little bit of hope, man. Are they actually going to make this a slingshot and come back from BFA?
See, there's an interesting difference here, because when they announced Legion in 2015, they announced a lot of fucking features. Everybody was hyped as fuck. Shadowlands, with all due respect, we talked about this a couple of times. It didn't feel it was like
it was very early.
Yeah, man. They didn't have a lot of gameplay to show. I mean, let's be real. If you look at like the footage from BlizzCon when they played, it's basically BFA in a new zone.
Yeah, gameplay aside, the features that they talked about were really like scraping the surface, like not much of it, which I get it. Okay, maybe they want to give themselves more room to develop things and not corner themselves into a specific direction, because that's kind of what they did with the Azurite trades. I mean, even if we feedbacked them in the beta, there's not much that they could do at that point. They were kind of locked in with the system.
But they didn't listen either, man.
Yeah, and that too.
Well, they did put all their bets on the Covenant thingy, so that can be compared to Azurite.
Yeah, that can be a big hit or miss, man. Because it kind of, whenever I think of the Covenant system and how they announced that it will be hard to switch from one to the other, I always get reminded of how you have to pay to reset Azurite traits.
Oh fuck. As always, we want to throw out a big salute to all of our patrons who keep on supporting the content that we do month after month. As a reminder, we do a class guides two class guides every week and a weekly WoW news show every Friday. Granted, we have shit to talk about on that Friday because
it's a kind of a requirement.
Yeah, last Friday we didn't have much, there was not much news going on and stuff. But thank you guys so much. And hey, if you ever were interested in becoming a Patreon, links are down in the description.
And of course, we have a lot of support on our Twitch platform where we're starting to stream more and more these days because not much else to do.
Yeah, stay at home.
But we really appreciate all the subs and tips and everything that you guys are doing to support our platform. We really enjoy streaming and we want to take this to the next level. And if you want to catch us streaming, we stream 5 days a week, twitch.tv/Marcelian&Online. We have a schedule there for you and we hope we'll see you there tomorrow. Saturday is the biggest stream.
Biggest stream ever. Biggest stream in the whole world.
You can catch me trying to fight the elevator boss so hard.
Have a great weekend, guys.
Take care, everybody. Stay safe.
Stay at home.
Clean.
Stay home. Stay home.
You